All right, hello and welcome to the SPSFC finalist chat. We have all of our finalists here, minus Lee Saunders, who we could not reach. And we also have, as a very special guest, Judge Ed Poole. And we are spanning, I think, 13 time zones here. Not representing 13, representing like four, but spanning 13. So that's pretty awesome. So I don't know how to run this. But I thought it would be cool to get us all together since we're bonded by this competition. I thought maybe we could start by just telling what your book is about, and then tell us why it absolutely won't win. Uh, so,
That's going to be.
I should be taking notes. Hold on a second.
I'll give you a moment to think about that. So I'll go first. My book, Kenai, which I have back behind me here, is a story about a disgraced space marine who's trying to put her life back together. She's serving as a security agent on an archaeological dig on a deserted planet that used to have aliens living there long ago. And so she's just starting to put her life back together doing this, but then everything starts to go wrong. She realizes that what she was told was happening is not happening, and then things just get super weird. Uh, and then why my book absolutely won't win is that it changes the kind of book it is about halfway through, which some of the judges have noticed and complained about. And also there's some science in the middle that is just bananas. And it manages to be the kind of bananas that is both frustrating and yet seems hackneyed. So that is why my book won't win. So anybody else want to dive in and tell us about your book and why you think it absolutely won't win?
Yeah, I can jump in.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll grab mine just a second.
Yeah, we got a new product.
Thrill
Awesome.
Switch. Thrill Switch is a cyberpunk crime thriller set in near future Las Vegas. And essentially a rookie detective, Ada Byron, gets assigned to a case where it appears somebody is killing people via virtual reality. And her father was killed by the same way 7 years previously, but the person who did that is in virtual jail. So she's tries to unravel what's happening there, and there's a whole bunch of politics and whatnot as we go through. I think it absolutely won't win because it's got a list of trigger warnings a mile long, and quite a few of the judges have picked up that it's a pretty dark book. I've previously written dark fantasy and horror as well, so sort of flexing the darkness in there may be a little bit too much for some people.
We have picked up Terry. I'm going to turn your video off just for a second, if that's okay. All right, cool. All right, well, that sounds awesome. I've been excited to read these. I've been too scared to read everybody's book during the competition, but I'm going to dive into them afterwards. All right, so who else has got a cool book they want to introduce and then shred?
I can go.
Okay.
So mine, what it's about is empathy and hate. It kind of psychopathy and empathy and polarization and unity and all that. It's set about 50 years after a great American Civil War that has fractured the country into four smaller countries. And I didn't want to deal with the Civil War itself, and I wanted to avoid being political because it's kind of the point of the book is to look at how we turn each other into other, and why we stop seeing each other as human increasingly, somebody who doesn't agree with us. So the protagonist is somebody who's blessed or cursed with extraordinary empathy to the point that it's actually uncomfortable, and he has to take an illegal street drug to tolerate other people's feelings and thoughts, not feelings. And it starts with some murders. And he's a former detective. He was involved in the original wars. He's 75 at the beginning, over 80 at the end. And it kind of from there it sets up as a detective story in a sense, because it starts with some murders, and then he gets drawn into something he can barely understand. And I guess that's probably as good an introduction as any, because beyond that, I kind of get into the secrets. Why it's absolutely not going to win is partly because of the secrets. Some people really, really enjoy a book that has multiple points of view, multiple timelines. Some people really, really don't. And I see that in reviews, and I'm okay with that. I don't always want to read a book with multiple points of view and timelines. Sometimes I just want to read a darn story, but that's what it is, and it puts some people off. I think also there's a little bit of a switch, because it starts feeling like a mystery. He's a retired detective getting drawn into one last case, and he's too old for this shit and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't continue as a detective story in a sense, except for his psychopathic partner, who is still a detective. So it's a weird book, and I think I see that in the reviews. Some people really click with it, and some people are just like, this was confusing. This was weird. No thanks.
Psychopathic partner is like the Riggs to his Murtaugh or something like that, I guess.
They're perfectly matched, because he's so empathic, it's uncomfortable for him to be around people. She's psychopathic, so she has no emotion for him no empathy for him to bounce off of. So they work well together, even though they're polar opposites.
Oh, that sounds awesome. All right, William or Wick, you want to tell us what you got going? Oh, and what's your book's name? I don't think you held it up or anything. You want to do it?
Sorry. 3 grams of Welker. Here you go.
Awesome.
Okay. I can go.
Okay.
Children of the Black is a novel set in a distant future where humanity has been enslaved by an alien race that is no longer in existence. At this point, we're dealing with a mercenary who discovers a little girl on a failed mission on a space station, and they kind of like end up stuck together for a significant period of time. They end up trying to make a living in the slums of a city called Minerva City, and they get dragged into a kind of a personal vendetta between the mercenary's old commander and his unit commander. So like the ship commander and the unit commander are falling out. Anyway, they discover that the secret to the space station and their history with that space station is all tied up in this one mission. And in order to deal with that, it will solve if the information they get could have solved the war, but now that there's peace, it could do so much worse. So that's the idea for Children of the Black. It absolutely won't win because it's too long. It has too many POV characters. Uh, it has multiple epilogues and a prologue, and someone said that the ending was anticlimactic. So there's that.
Who said that? Madman.
All right, and Wick, you got yours?
Yeah, I realize I don't have a copy of my own book. Like I just looked, I don't have it. And it's called Dark Theory. And it's about a robot who wakes up in a junkyard with no memory, and a thief finds him and wants to sell him for parts, and another junkyard street rat wants to save him, and he has no memory and he's self-aware. And they start a heist to steal a flake of dark matter from a castle. And they realize that something is deeply wrong with the cosmos. It takes place in the far, far, far future when the universe is actually expanded. So the universe is expanding now, and this is like at the edge of time and space where everything is expanded away, and you look in the sky and it's only blackness. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
so it's like a small castle heist story at the beginning, and then it turns into an enormous, huge, sprawling, kind of cataclysmic problem. So that's kind of the story. It definitely, by the way, I love talking about the things we hate about our books. It is so therapeutic talking to other writers about the things you hate about your books, because if you're not a writer, you totally don't get that. Every book you write is like self-flagellation, and talking about it, you're like embarrassed. You're like embarrassed by your book. Like everybody understands what I'm talking about. It won't win because it's too long. It's 800 pages. It has 2 epilogues. It's way too dark. It's like grim dark sci-fi fantasy. It has body horror in it for some reason. I don't know why I put body horror stuff in there. And yeah, it just should have been edited down more. It's not. It definitely won't. It was fun to write. I can say that. I had a blast writing it. It's not gonna.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That's great. Who has aliens? Show of hands. Okay.
I have to say, maybe.
Oh, maybe. Very good answer. Not wanting to spoil anything with the hand raising. And who has really weird science? Oh, most of us. Okay. Anybody tried the hard science approach? Like everything is well explained and yeah. Okay. I very conspicuously don't have my hand up there.
I have some soft neuroscience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. All right, Andrew, maybe you could tell us what it's been like reading some of these. What's the judging experience like for this or for one of these things?
Yeah, so this is my third year judging in the SPSFC, and have loved it. It's a lot of work, but where else are you going to get, books where the authors have been confident enough to put their books on the chopping block and say, yeah, this is good, judge it. And you get a bunch of them sent to you for free. So, it's a win-win for me. I've been enjoying it, and I've been enjoying sort of getting to know all the authors and obviously reading their books. At the moment, I'm just into the first couple of chapters of 3 Grams of Elsewhere, which is my last one for the contest. So I appreciate not getting any spoilers. So that was
Yeah,
I've been loving it. Yeah.
And you, unlike the other judges, you actually post a review of every one you get, which is and you're a solo judge team there. That must be a ton of work.
Yeah, it's that's kind of a long backstory to that decision that I made, which sometimes I regret when it comes crunch time and I have a bunch of reviews to write and a bunch of stories to read all of, but then there's no other alternative for a competition like this. Most of the judging teams, we all have a huge pile of books to read, and a lot of the other judges and judging teams don't just do this. They do other contests, and they do other reviews, and they review games and movies and whatever else. So when the decision is, as an author, if someone reads 10% of your book and then slushes it out of the competition, and you get a paragraph in a blog post saying, some of us like this book, some of us didn't, and that's all. I get how that's disappointing. I also get how that's the only alternative for a lot of these sort of situations. So I decided, especially, it sort of started in the first year of the competition, but certainly this year, when they've given me a chance to do it solo, I thought, since I'm the only one who's going to be saying yes or no to the books in the first round, at least, the semifinals and the finals aren't necessarily up to me, but what goes forward from my initial pile was. So then I wanted more than just, I read 50 pages and didn't click. That's not good enough. So at least from my perspective, giving it a full review is at least something that the author can take away.
Yeah, I think that's really neat, and I'm sure that the people in your group appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate that as the authors, because it's clear that often, it will get the first, few pages, few chapters, and I understand you got to do that to get through especially at the first stages. So appreciate all the time.
Yeah, your workload actually decreases over the course of the competition, whereas the other judging teams probably increase, I would guess.
That's true. Yeah, it's the first 6 months are a big crunch, a lot of reading and a lot of reviews, and then at least the first couple of rounds, because we're continually tweaking this thing, so figuring out how to do it, how to share out the books, how to divide the teams up, and certainly in the first couple of rounds, I ended up with a 10 or 11 week break where I sort of just completely decompressed and ended up suddenly realizing, oh crap, now there's more books to read. Now I've got to finish them. And especially this time around, naming no names, there's a couple of 200,000 word books in here that I'm like suddenly, oh, now I'm going to read these. But they've been great. And thank you for making them easy to read. Even if they had a lot of words, they were good words.
The best words. Yeah.
The best words.
Awesome. Okay. I don't know. I just made up some things that we could talk about, but if you all want to talk about other stuff, then go for it.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
Fantasy analog that preceded SPSFC, SPFBO has a pronunciation in it, SPFBO. Is there a pronunciation for SPSFC?
I heard Baldwin call it Space Bow.
They call it Spacebo, right?
Yes, I think that's the emotional favorite is Spacebo, just because the people who know it, that's a lot easier to, and it makes a parallel. But I think when the first year they were talking, Andrew was around then. I don't know if the other guys entered first year. They were talking about that, and I think they settled on like specific, which it almost spells, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody really calls it that. And my wife insists on calling it Spacebo, and I get in trouble when I call it anything else. So she is. I've entered Spoofbo too, so she's been used to this for the last couple of years. But yes, so my wife's official pronunciation, which I will always hew to, is Spacebo.
Andrew, what do the judges say?
I would say only Donald Duck can pronounce this properly. Otherwise, there are a few, but yeah, the thing is, we seldom say it out loud, so it's fine when you're just writing it in social media. So it's, yeah, I don't generally make videos, so I've saved myself this problem.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I even like characters in books, I'm sure 90% of the time I am pronouncing it wrong in my head.
Yeah.
Not even
I do that in my own books.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Let's get everybody's favorite sci-fi movie and favorite book that you read as a kid that got you into sci-fi. All right. Does that sound okay? So I'll go first again to give you a chance to talk. My favorite sci-fi movie was Star Wars, which is, I guess not that original, but I am 54. I saw it when I was 7, and that was the most magical thing ever to do at that age in that era, because sci-fi movies and shows before that, the coolest one was the Star Trek old series. But then you've got Forbidden Planet, and 2001 was weird, and I couldn't see it at that age. And I just remember my uncle saw it, and I saw him. We were visiting my grandparents. He's like, "Oh yeah, there's this movie with these like space knights with these laser swords," and I was just like, "What?" And I finally got to see it when I got home, and I saw it like 7 more times that summer because that was the era before VHS or anything. So. Yeah, that was just a seminal moment for me. I was reading a bunch of sci-fi at that time, and I think the ones that I really dug the most were probably the Edgar Rice Burroughs Mars books. Reading those in the modern day, there's some problematic stuff in them, but back then, I just thought the idea that this guy could go to this other planet and immerse himself in the culture and be super strong. It just had so many elements that were really cool to me, and there were so many books. I went through all of them multiple times, and I was reading Heinlein and other stuff too once I got a little more sophisticated. But yeah, for me, those were the kind of portal drugs to sci-fi. All right, who wants to share? Anybody, go for it.
I'll take the unoriginal track with Aliens.
Oh yeah.
I saw Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and all that stuff first, but I saw Aliens. It made the impression on me. My uncle came back from the Philippines. He was in the military, and he had the Laserdisc for it, the Laserdisc version. And they were watching it downstairs in the basement of my grandma's house. Right, everybody went down there, and the kids were not allowed to go down there because we were too young. I was like 6 years old. And so I snuck down the stairs and I watched the whole of the Aliens movie standing on the bottom stair, peeking around the corner, scaring myself to death, right? And I fell in love with the alien queen. I've been in love with her ever since. And so and as far as books go, there was a book I was able to go to the Scholastic Book Fair one year. We were poor, so this is the first book I was able to buy there. It was a book called Invitation to the Game. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's about a group of teenagers who are poor and they get an invitation to play this game, this VR game, and it turns out the VR game is actually, well, maybe I won't spoil it. Anyway, um, it's an excellent book, and the twist is amazing, and I really loved it. And I said, and that's when I thought, hey, I could do this, and you know.
So your derelicts of the old city are now that you mention aliens, I'm like,
yeah, inspired partially. The other parts are nightmare I had. So
yeah, fair enough. Unrelated nightmare.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Who else has got something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just basically going to say as soon as William said aliens, I was like, that's the one for me. Because I mean, similar story. I went around to my friend's house who had an older 14-year-old brother, and he's the guy that had all the good movies. And so we snuck around and we watched Hellraiser and all sorts of crazy stuff at their house. And Aliens, my eyeballs just popped out of my head. And what a cracking movie. And funnily enough, the Alien Queen, I think I read or I saw James Cameron originally, the sort of subtitle for the screenplay was The Mother.
yeah.
And about a mother caring for her babies. And there's so many layers to that, and it was so ahead of its time. When you think about it now, it's just such a cracking one. And they recently put it on the cinemas here in Australia again, which was just phenomenal. I said to my wife, Aliens is on. She's like, you can go. You can go. And in terms of the first series of books that really got me into sci-fi I think I was in primary school, was the Tripod series by John Christopher, which is essentially these aliens come to Earth and put these skull caps on people's heads to control them. And this young kid figures out, I guess he doesn't have a skull cap or something, and he's a bit of a rebel. And I just really gravitated to those books, and it just drew me into that whole world. I loved it.
Yeah, I read those when I was 10. They were in the library. I was living in Ireland for a year then, and they had a relatively limited sci-fi section, and I found those, and those blew my mind. It was so creepy that the aliens were running around controlling everybody. Those were great. Yeah. Have you seen the trailer for the new Alien movie?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's
okay, yeah, check it out.
It is. I mean, I have watched a lot of terrible alien movies now, because I keep going and they keep sucking. But this one, it really looks like they have found their mojo again. It's much more like the original Alien than Aliens. Aliens was a different kind of movie, a war movie.
Yeah, I've been disappointed by some of the recent. I mean, not tragically disappointed, but they just didn't live up to Alien and Aliens.
Yeah. I was tragically disappointed by Prometheus. That one was horrible. Yeah.
Looks so good though. It looks
a good sci-fi movie with a bad alien movie.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Andy or Andrew or Wick, you want to tell us your entree to the world of sci-fi?
Sure, I can go. I read a lot. When you say book, that means it's a book that stuck in my head, because I read a lot of, when I was really young, Andre Norton, who I think was a wise writer, and read a lot of Isaac Asimov and Ray Bradbury, but none of the books stick. So I'm going to completely subvert your question, because even though it's not a science fiction book, it was Lord of the Rings that got me into reading. And it got me into this idea of, as you're reading it, and there's a lot of flaws, and in some ways doesn't hold up well. I think I've read it 10 times now. It's an awesome book, but the amazing thing about it is that as you're reading it, even though it's this enormously long book, and even though it gives you a lot of detail, you can tell you're looking at the tip of the iceberg. You can tell there's a whole world behind it. And he's giving you of the history, and the languages, and he's giving you glimpses of it, because that's kind of what it is. He wasn't so much about the book. He wanted to make this universe, and then he gives you glimpses of the book. So it was the first time I remember reading a book and thinking, this feels like a real world. There's there's more to this than the story. And I'm sure there's more to this on his desk than I'm reading. And that made it feel like an act of love or devotion of the author to this work. And for the movie, I'm going in the same direction, much as I like to say, actually the original Alien, I would probably pick, but I'm going with Blade Runner. Because of what at the time I thought of as production design, but now I think of as world building. You know, you look at that movie and there's so many throwaways. It'll pan across something, and somebody put this enormous devotion into building this incredibly complex, believable world, and it doesn't even linger on them. You know, it bothers me when there's a movie that's got like 8 good ideas and they linger on every one. And this one is just throwing them away. It's like, look at this. Oh, look, there's this and there's what was that? I'm gonna freeze frame and see what that was. And it was another way to kind of, I think, draw me in more because it made me feel like I was seeing a little part of a bigger world.
Very cool. So are you the kind of guy who reads all of the dwarven poetry, or do you flip past that?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I've read the Silmarillion 3 times. I'll probably.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. So you're definitely dwarven poetry. Yeah. You're getting the salute for Andrew. All right, Wicker, Andrew, you got the.
All right, I guess I'll jump in. So I was a Doctor Who kid from the age of about 2.
Oh yeah, I watched with my dad.
80s. Yeah. So that was basically that ingrained itself into my head. It wasn't necessarily something I was a fan of, but it was my reality for most of my childhood. In terms of books, I guess for sci-fi books, one of the first set that I started reading was this Last Legionary by Douglas Hill. It was a sort of a mega violent, sort of pulpy sort of thing about this guy whose planet had been destroyed, and he was on a vendetta to try and find the bad guys who did it. And he'd been kind of, I think it was he'd been augmented so that his bones were metal, kind of like Wolverine. So he was super strong, but and he was an amazing fighter. So they had all these great scenes where he would punch a guy and his hand would tear through his temple and smash his brain. And my mum would get these for me at the library because she'd be like, "Oh well, he's reading." She didn't care. She didn't actually know what was in them. So that was sort of my first own reading experience. But I think most of the books I've really enjoyed have been they blend between science fiction and fantasy. So stuff like Weiss and Hickman's Deathgate cycle, which has a lot of it's sort of multiple different worlds and portals and spaceships, but then also it's magic, but it's explained in a sort of pseudo scientific way. So that's where I sort of lean in, and where we've had some interesting discussions in this competition about what is science fiction and what is science fantasy and what is just straight up fantasy. And as far as I'm concerned, if there's a spaceship in it, then it's science fiction enough.
Cool. All right, Wick, you want
to? Yeah, for movie, a runner-up is 12 Monkeys. I watched that movie so many times. But I think the most influential sci-fi movie I watched was Terminator 2. I mean, I watched that movie so many times, and like the time travel and the time paradox, it's just absolutely, and that's just, the movie's a work of art. And then hands down, the book that influenced me the most as a teenager was Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. Blew my mind reading. I read it straight through, and actually just recently reread it like a few months ago, and I think I've read it 3 times, the series, and it's just what Asimov does with politics and religion and then time and psychohistory. It just could not believe that I was like, whoa, this is what sci-fi is. You know, just like I remember being a teenager reading, I'm like, I cannot believe how incredible this is. And that definitely influenced me. And also Ray Bradbury. I mean, Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov were really enormous influences to me getting into sci-fi and in getting into writing.
What did you think of the TV adaptation?
I've watched it all. It's flawed, and I think if I didn't care about Foundation, I probably would have hated it and probably wouldn't finish it if I didn't care about the series. But you know, it doesn't really follow the series. And then the end of the 2nd season, I was like, what? But I like what they did with the Emperor. I thought that was really cool. This like cloning the same Emperor, because that was, so their adaptations, some of the things that the writers came up with on their own, I thought were pretty clever and cool. And it's beautiful to look at. I don't know. I give it a B. I watched it. That's endorsement enough, I guess.
Yeah,
Watched the whole
you
thing.
finished it. That's
Yeah,
decent.
I did. I finished it. That's, I mean, that's these days, there's so much content. Finishing something is like an amazing endorsement, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a level of, I think there's a level of being a fan of something or loving something so much that even if it's not a perfect adaptation, I mean, if you're one level of fan, you'll be like, watching this and I'm hating it because it's not right. It's not the same as the books. It's not going to capture the way I love the original story. But then there's another level which is, I'm not going to rank them, but it's like just watching it just to see someone else's interpretation of the story and just to see it on the screen and to see something get made out of it is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
We've all been through this with the Wheel of Time series and the Rings of Power and most things that have an ingrained preset fan base.
I think Dark Tower doesn't fit in those categories.
Dark Tower, I just watched for Idris Elba. Let's put it that way.
That is so bad that, like, anyway, I just finished the series and it blew my mind how awesome that series is. Anyway.
Yeah. But that kind of leads into the next question I came up with, which is what's your guilty pleasure sci-fi? Something that you know is kind of bad, but you still like anyway. I was thinking of this last night, and I was going to say the Canadian TV show Dark Matter. I don't know if anybody's seen that. It's about a bunch of people who are prisoners on a ship and they have amnesia and they wake up and they don't know who each other is and they're trying to figure out how they got there. And it gets corny right before it gets canceled. But I enjoyed that. But then I woke up this morning, I was like, no. The much better thing that's my guilty pleasure is the movie Battleship. Anybody seen that one? It is so cheesy, and the first 10 minutes are almost impossible to watch. But once you get into it, and they do all the stuff like with the little alien missiles that hit the ship and then lock in. And I saw it in an afternoon matinee with one of my good friends. And the moment when they realize that the only battleship that can take on the aliens is the World War II one, and they have to get all the guys out of retirement, and they're walking in slow-mo down the walkway towards the mothball. We stood up and cheered in the theater, with like 4 other people around us. It was that movie I will never not like that movie. All right, so who's got something like that? What's your thing that you love to watch or love to hate or love to hate watch? What is your thing like that?
I was quoting Spaceballs to someone the other day. So yeah. I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Oh, that's a great choice. It has such great lines, and then there's
I mean, if you're still quoting it to someone like
right
20 plus years later or whatever it was, it's obviously just stuck in my memory and stuck in a lot of people's memory because he started throwing lines back at me. Like, cool. Desert, we ain't found shit. Just some classic moments in film that you never forget. So it was cheesy as pizza, but it was great.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody else have one like?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Anybody else have one like it?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'd go with Pacific Rim. Because it has big robots and makes absolutely no sense, and it's stupid, but it's fun to watch the big robots.
Yeah, I'm a marine geologist, and I gave that one a passing grade for plate tectonics, even because I loved it so much. Even though the monsters are somehow coming out, whatever. It was great. Giant
Everything
waves.
Guillermo del Toro touches, I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have one like that, or you don't have to?
There's a terrible writer and director named Neil Breen. He's become pretty famous in I love good bad movies. Yeah, Ed's laughing. I love good bad movies. Like The Room and like Troll 2. There's a podcast I listen called The Flophouse, which they review good bad movies. They got my attention to it. But there's a movie called Fateful Findings, and if you are looking for a good bad movie, watch it. It is so unbelievably entertaining and wild. It's like when someone, and obviously the main actor is also the writer and director. It's like one of those, ego projects. And it's so bizarre seeing what this guy, someone who's a little on the egocentric side. They clearly, it's a project, it's like a vanity project, and it is so incredibly bizarre to watch. So I highly recommend. Neil Breen is the creator, and Fateful Findings is the. I love good bad movies. I like. Yeah.
If any of you guys have watched Red Letter Media on YouTube, they break down all of Neil Breen's movies because they're kind of.
Do they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've done like a 5-hour retrospective on it. Yeah, they got his like legacy collection in at some point and watched them all.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I got to. I love Red Letter Media. I cannot believe there's a crossover between Red Letter Media and Neil Breen.
They've kind of gone from being sort of ironic fans of his to actually just just loving the guy because he's so unrepentant in what he does, and you got to.
It makes the Room look like an Oscar masterpiece. I mean, seriously, like if you're really looking for a bad movie, check out Neil Breen. It's
Over here, my daughter is a big fan of good bad movies as well, and Amazon has a great collection. And I can't pick the one I like the most between Killer Sofa, which is an Australian indie film, and Velocipaster, which
I've seen that. That is a good bad movie. Yeah.
Velocipaster, yeah.
I sent that to my dad, who's a pastor. I don't know if he watched it.
But yeah, those two are the ones they come up all the time. So yeah, those are the ones for me. Otherwise, I don't really have like guilty pleasures. Really, I just like kind of.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, Velocipaster is all you need. That one. Oh, man. I only watched the trailer, and I feel like I've seen the whole thing. But maybe I should watch the entire movie. I don't know.
No.
Well, if you can, if you can.
I often wonder what was the conversation in the pitch room when someone decided to give them $5 million to make that or whatever it was. Like, was it just they just walked and went Velocipaster? They went, yes, we're done.
I think it's like a bunch of people got together and wanted to make a movie and said, let's make the most ridiculous thing we can make, and then somebody's uncle who owns a company or something like that or a business said, hey, here's some money, go have fun, and then they made a movie. And
yeah. Awesome. All right. I totally didn't know how this was going to go, and I don't know if you guys will be up for this, but I came up with some trivia questions, and I was trying to figure out, it seemed like teams would work. So we have 2 books that are set on Earth, if I am thinking correctly. So Tim's and Andy's are both set on Earth. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
And Williams and Wick's are set not on Earth.
Mine's on Earth. You find out later. Mine is actually on Earth.
Oh man, okay, so that won't work. Oh well, no, actually, if you 3 want to be Team Earth, and we have Andrew and William on Team Space, is that okay? This is really more organization than this deserves. All right, so believe me, this will work. Okay, so here is our first set of trivia questions. Let's start with Team Space, William and Andrew. What these are classic sci-fi books that I have put the title through Google Translate to a non-Western language and then gotten the title back through Google Translate to English. So these are going to be, they start easy and then they get harder. Okay.
You want to just yell out the answers, or are we?
Yeah, just yell out the answer. There's no points, no prize. This is just for fun. But go ahead, Team Space, Andrew and Will. This is your first one.
Snow Crash?
Snow Crash. Yes, that's right. That's that one. So to see just a small change. All right, Team Earth. You got this one?
Starship Trooper.
Starship Troopers. Yeah.
Starship Trooper. Yes, very good. Okay. Team Space.
Eternal Conflict. The Forever War.
Oh
yes, Forever War. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Team Earth.
Tell me.
I just can't get June out of my head now.
I can't imagine it being Dune. I don't know how you would get that.
You're close.
Oh, Dune Messiah.
Yes, very good.
Nice.
Hey, good
Nice.
job.
Good work.
Nice. All right. So this one I had to take one of the words out because it would have given it away. But see if you can.
This would be Blade Runner or
One of
the
you.
Android's Dream of Electric Sheep.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good. Okay. This one I also blanked out a couple of them that would have made it obvious.
Oh, it's a can't I think of the name? Traveler's Guide to the
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, yes, very good.
Really? Hitchhiker becomes optical score. Wow. Okay.
I had to try about 16 languages before I got one that didn't just translate hitchhiker correctly. So that was a journey into languages I had never heard of. All right.
Hitchhiking can be an obstacle course.
Yeah. All right. Anybody know this one?
The moon is a harsh mistress, or the earth?
Yes, very good. Highline
Nice.
book.
Good work.
We can skip the team part. You guys can all just be a collective team.
Oh, sorry, did I call out for Earth?
No, I don't even know. All right. Here's another one. This was actually very close, but I thought it was strange enough that you might not get it.
It's Douglas Adams.
It is Douglas Adams. That's correct. If you got it, you can claim it, Andrew. Go for it.
Go, Andrew.
Life, the universe, and everything.
Yes, very good.
3 of the trilogy of 5? I can't remember which one it is.
Very good. This is
Brave New World.
Brave New World. Yes,
Brave
they
New
just
World,
ditched
yeah.
the whole brave part in the translation somehow. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe bravery doesn't exist in that language, but yes, that was that one.
Base.
This one you should get, at least one of you.
like home.
It was actually mentioned in our previous discussion.
Spaceballs?
No, it's an Asimov book.
Oh,
Foundation.
Yeah, Foundation. Very good. All right, this one they just took one of the words out entirely. And
Clockwork Orange?
yes, it's Clockwork Orange, but apparently, I don't know, Clockwork didn't work. It's orange.
It is.
This is a 19th century classic.
Around the
Around the
World.
World in 80 Days?
Yeah, that's the one I thought that you would go with. I'm not sure that's sci-fi though. But this is a different one, but sort of that era.
Journey around the world, or no, what was it called?
Journey to the Center of the Earth?
It's
I'm thinking Journey to the Center of the Earth, but it's not that.
Yeah, Journey to the Center of the Earth. Very good.
Oh,
it is. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they changed the geometry a lot there in translation.
Although in the movie adaptation of that one, they did travel to the. What did they do? They went to a hole in the Antarctic or something to get into the Hollow Earth. Anyway,
Is
Are
this
you
I Am
talking
Legend?
about the movie with Brendan? What's his name?
the Brendan Fraser classic.
Yes. I mentioned that as a geologist, I was willing to forgive some movies for how they treated geology. That was not one of the movies. All right. How about this one?
I Am Legend.
Yes, very good.
Nice.
I thought that was going to be
Good
hard.
work.
Yeah.
In the region.
This is a Heinlein book, and it is very poorly translated.
Oh,
Stranger in a Strange Land?
Yes, that's right.
It is people in a region. That's true.
Yeah, it is. This one was the weirdest one of all. It's kind of a YA sci-fi, very popular. They made a movie.
Oh, I
out
know
of it.
what it is. It's
No.
I'm forgetting the name of it.
At the same time, in brain.
The author's first name is Madeline.
Not a splinter in time. No.
I think that's Alan Dean Foster. So that's not.
This one.
A Wrinkle in Time?
Yes, A Wrinkle in Time.
Hey.
Oh, nice.
Membrane is the wrinkle, maybe. I don't know. And this is a movie. It's not a book.
The King of Earth.
It's one of the Star Wars movies.
Empire Strikes Back?
Empire Strikes Back.
Right. Very good.
Nice.
Awesome. All right. And I know that William's a Star Wars fan because I watched his interview on Bald and Balding. But I have some of these. These are all Star Wars anagrams of characters. Okay, so see if you can pull the Star Wars character out of these letters. Renal Kayak. Anakin Skywalker. Yep, very good.
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes. Oh, you guys are good at this. Ironical Sandals.
Lando?
Yes, Lando Calrissian.
Nice.
This is Amidala, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Padme.
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 Very good. How about this one?
Mm.
This is a character who is nervous.
Jar Jar Binks?
No. He made his debut in the very first movie, episode 4, and was unsure of a strategy the rebellion was about to take and voiced his displeasure in a way that has become memed.
Admiral Akbar.
Yes, Admiral Akbar.
Nice.
You gave too many clothes on that one.
Yeah. Then there's this one. He's a little more obscure, but I think he's actually been in nearly all the movies. It is quite possible that he bullseyed a womp rat.
Oh, that's what's good. That'd be Luke Skywalker, right? That's Skywalker.
One of his friends.
Oh,
He made a run at the Death Star, but didn't get to finish it.
Oh, Wedge Antilles?
Yes, very good.
really? Okay.
Yeah. How about this one?
Darth Vader.
Yes.
Very nice.
Oh, wow.
Jabba the Hutt.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Nice.
This guy is perhaps most recently best known for Improbable Survival.
Palpatine, right?
Yeah, somehow you were done.
Yeah, Palpatine. Very good. And then the last one.
Oh, nice name.
Yes. I don't even know what that is, but it's
I can't even stop seeing the name now. There's no way I'm taking that apart.
This guy is in the reboot, the last 3 movie.
Oh, Dameron.
Yes, Poe Dameron. Very good.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, anyway, that was the trivia section of today's show.
That was fun. Thanks for doing that. That was fun.
Oh, yeah,
That's
no problem.
really
I didn't know what we were going to do. It's a bunch of sci-fi writers hanging out on a Saturday morning / evening /
Middle of the day.
yeah. Anyway, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure getting to know people. I got to know some really cool authors in the first round when I did this a couple of years ago with this book. I see many of us have done the product placement thing. I actually have a whole product placement chair back here that I can bring into view. Yeah, that's when. Might as well get that in before it ends. Cool. No, but I have really enjoyed getting to know other authors, and I'm so glad we had this chance. Anybody have any last words of wisdom or threats or attempted bribing of judges they want to get done before we sign off?
Yeah,
I can throw my
nice.
bank details.
Swiss bank account number scrolling along the bottom. I appreciate you taking the time to find us all and pull it together.
Oh no, this is fun. Andrew, anything you've learned from reading what must be now, I don't know, 120 sci-fi novels?
Yeah, an awful lot. So, yes. Well, basically, I think something we all already know is indie authors and indie books are often far more worthwhile than stuff you find in traditionally published areas. Sometimes those are good, sometimes they're not so great. But I've really enjoyed finding gems that wouldn't otherwise get much attention, and this relentless search for the bottom line that's going to please the maximum number of people is where I think a lot of modern entertainment has been falling down. You can't please everyone, but the right author will find the right readers, and that's been really important. And something I've been really looking forward to once this round is over is getting into some of the books, because most of the books I've been reading for this competition have been part one of a series or a book set in a universe which has more books, and never having a chance to read any of these ones that I've sort of gotten invested in the characters and the places has been tricky. So I've got a big list of things to keep reading after this is done, and I hope that a lot of the other judges and the people who are following the competition have done the same.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah, and it wouldn't happen without the judges. I know it's been at times a hard year to be a judge, and I really appreciate how you all have kind of pushed that aside and moved on through and gotten.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's nothing much more personal than writing a book and then having other people tell you what they think about it. So it's one of those cases where I definitely understand how the judges feel when things go sour, and I also understand how the authors feel when they get bitter about things being unfair or things not working the way they want, or people not appreciating the goddamn work of genius that they've created. Everyone should have more respect for. So yeah, it's not easy for anyone, but it's also very rewarding. So.
Oh, totally, yeah. Has anybody seen a sales bump from being a finalist? I have not. My sales have actually declined since becoming a finalist. So that
I have.
I've seen a little bump.
Oh yeah, oh that's great.
Yeah,
I think so too. Just like right when the finalists got announced, I saw a little trickle right after that.
Yeah, cool.
How do you guys all feel like paperback versus ebooks in terms of sales?
Oh,
still ebooks. Quite often, I feel like I'll get a bump of ebooks, and then the paperbacks come through, and I often wonder if it's people who like the ebook book going, "Oh, I want this on paperback now," and I get that feedback a bit. Have you guys had that experience?
I've had the experience where, I mean, most of the sales are ebooks, and so when a paperback sale happens, or when sometimes it'll be a cluster, I'll wonder why, and I'll look around for why, and sometimes I can't figure it out. I think that's as good an explanation as any. Sometimes I know a library picked it up, or there was a review posted somewhere prominent, but most of the time I'm just like, oh, I guess somebody just wanted it.
Yeah, I always have clusters of sales. It always goes up and down. It's weird. I don't understand it. It always seems like to be in a spurts, but I don't get it.
Yeah, mine just bump along, and it's pretty consistent that paperbacks are much less than the ebooks. Maybe 5 or 10%. But I will sometimes get 3 or 4 in a week, and I have this little author like, oh, is somebody doing a book club, or probably not at all. It's just random noise in the data, but yeah, I am still waiting for the moment where I see, it's sort of like author achievements unlocked. I still am waiting for the moment where I see a paperback on somebody's shelf behind them when they're doing a video about something else. Yeah. I would love that. That has not happened to me.
I've had that once.
Oh, you did? Oh, awesome. That's great. Yeah, you're fast forwarding everything. Your very first book becomes a finalist, and then now you've already gotten shelfie. You're really burning it up here. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, I sent the book to her, so like it's.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know she was gonna put it on the shelf, but like.
Yeah, no, that's good. Hey, if it made the shelf, it's got to be real. It's not.
Dave, that's your solution. You just have to send more books to more people.
Okay. Okay. I have sent a lot of books to people, but I can keep going. Maybe I should just ask if they have shelves first, and that would help.
But yeah, I think it's definitely the case when I think Tim was saying that there are books that I've read in this competition where now I want to get the whole set in paperback so I can have them on a shelf somewhere and loan them to people and stuff like that. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. There's no better thing for an author to have your book loaned to somebody else. I mean, that's terrific. All right. Well, do you know when the finals end, Andrew? You would be more.
Yeah. We've got another week. So, and next weekend, all the scores are supposed to be in, and I think we have a little bit of adjustment time then. And then, yeah, so I think 2 weeks at the latest, we're going to get an announcement. But don't quote me on that. I'm not a world power in the.
Oh, cool. So we can carry on in this happy little bubble of anticipation and self-doubt that we've been living in for the past couple of months.
We're used to it. We're writers. I mean, you live in that bubble space anyway.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's just one thing on the list to tear your hair about. We've got many other things on the list. Cool.
But I will say that of this year's competition, the finalists, you guys have all I think it's the first year now that we've had no sort of clear, right, this one's really good and the rest are kind of meh. They're all consistently, people have good things to say about all of them. So you can feel good about that.
Say they're all meh. Okay, sure.
Yeah, there's that author space again.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Hey, I just want to say thanks again for pulling this together. And this is the first time I've been involved with a competition like this, and I've just found it such a joy because it's so solo a lot of the time, just sitting, in your little room, tapping away in your own head, and to actually reach out and have conversations, and even if they're just digital ones, with other people who share the same passions as you. And I've had such a positive experience this whole way through. So I will forever be recommending for other people to enter things like this, because for me, it's just, I've got so much back from it, in the sense of just meeting cool people and having a good time. It's just been unreal. So thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one question before we get out of here.
Sure.
What's everybody working on next? What is everybody working on next? What's your next stuff? If you can talk about it.
Yeah. My first book was science fiction that read like fantasy. It was in the Spacebo semifinals, called The Nothing Within, and then so that was sci-fi fantasy. This one's just sci-fi, so the third one's going to be fantasy. Pretty well into it.
Yeah, I just finished a fantasy book that I entered in this year's SPSFC, so I'm a little kind of like at that moment where something's done and you haven't quite started the next thing. But I have an email. I never do an outline, but I have an email that's a paragraph of plot for the next sci-fi book that I thought up in October when I had absolutely no time to do that because I was working on 2 other things, and I mailed it to myself and hit snooze. And it has just popped up again, and now I'm like, oh, I have this idea. So yeah, it'll be another sci-fi story in the same. Both of my sci-fi books are in the same sort of universe, although they're not related and they don't have the same characters in them. But I'm trying to develop that sort of, I don't know, cinematic universe thing where my books can all be kind of in the same setting, far future, but not necessarily connected by plot. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah,
I'm fiercely. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I'm working on Dark Theory 2, the one that's in the competition, and I published a sequel novella to it just to make sure people know it's still alive, and then I'm working on the sequel right now, and it's going awesome. I'm like loving it.
Is the theory darker in the second one?
It is much darker. It gets much more weird, and it has less body horror in it. Although it's still violent. It's still violent and very dark. And I should publish it.
Epilogues?
It will have epilogues. Maybe I'll have 3. And it should be published next year. I think I'm on track for publishing next year. So, and I'm loving it. It's so fun.
Make it just a prologue and then just epilogues from then on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just people will love it.
I'll read that.
All right.
What about you, William? What are you working on?
Well, I am in edit and beta reading for the sequel, Hound of Greywood, which unfortunately is longer than this book. But tighter. I think the story is there are less point of view characters in that sequel. And then I'm working on a paranormal thriller that's a separate thing, but hopefully much shorter and doesn't happen.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's great.
And you, Tim?
I'm very close to getting towards the end of a climate fiction eco-terrorist kind of novel. I guess kind of like Fight Club meets Ministry for the Future or something. And then the next one I'm planning is the sequel to Thrill Switch, the book that's done well in this competition.
Nice.
Awesome. And Andrew, I know you're an author too. Are you writing anything now, or are you?
No, I'm writing reviews basically. That's all I've been doing for the last 3 years. But hoping to, like I said, read some more of the sequels and the rest of the series of these things. And then I am working on some things of my own. I have been writing a young adult sci-fi series. It's kind of a Round the World in 80 Days style sci-fi with a bunch of little stories, kind of Conan style short adventures that each chapter is a story. And I've been reading them to my kids at bedtime as I finish them. So they're my first beta readers.
That's cool.
Helps me get editing through and stories that make sense. And I also have to put unicorns and rabbits and things in that they tell me to. And work that into sci-fi, which is good for the imagination.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds delightful. All right. Well, we're at an hour 5. I don't know what we promised this would be, but I've had a great time. I hope you guys have had.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Fun to meet y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Couldn't ask for a nicer group of folks to be in this thing.
Yep. I hope you all can.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's a draw. We'll call it a draw.
There you go.
And thank you, Andrew, for all of that you're doing, and all the other judges as well.
Not at all. Thank you guys.
We really appreciate it. Yeah. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.